I want to talk to you about something that we call logic. Does anybody here knows what is logic? What's that thing? How do you define logic?
Common sense.
Common sense, that's a good thing, yeah? Anybody else? It's a truth, so true that it doesn't need any demonstration, right? For instance, let me put an example of logic. Today is Friday. Tomorrow is going to be what? Saturday. That's logic. Another example of logic is if I have, well, no, I'm not going to put an example with my Bible. I have a cell phone, and if I drop it, what's going to happen? It's going to go down, right? Because of gravity. That's logic. Now, human beings know logic and can understand it because it's understandable. But when we talk about divine logic, it's something we cannot understand. And talking about divine logic, I want you to go with me to the book of Luke, chapter 7. Book of Luke, chapter 7. Specifically, verses 8 to 13. Luke, chapter 7. Verses 8, verses 11 to 13. Now it happened the day after he went into a city called Nain, and many of his disciples went with him, and a large crowd. And when he came near the gate of the city, behold, a dead man was being carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. And a large crowd from the city was with her. When the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her and said to her, what? Is somebody reading with me? What did he say? Yay, your son is dead. What did he say? Weep not. Okay. I have a problem when somebody tell me not to cry when I have enough reasons to cry. It's been said by modern psychiatrists and psychologists that when someone has reasons to cry, you have to allow that person to cry. When I was a little kid, I went to a funeral of a friend's mother. He was crying, and I didn't know what to say to my friend. I was just 13 years old. I didn't know how to approach to my friend, so I say, you know what, don't cry. You're going to see her soon when Jesus comes back. He gave me this glare, and he threw me a punch. Thank God I was very agile. I took my face off, otherwise he would have marked my face. Modern psychologists, modern psychiatrists, say if you have enough reasons to cry, you should cry. Let it out. Cry. And I personally believe Jesus is the psychologist for excellence. The best psychiatrist, because he knows our minds. And here's Jesus breaking all the rules of psychology and psychiatry. Did this woman have enough reasons to cry? Yes, she did. Let's analyze a little bit her story. First of all, she was what? She was a widow. Do you remember how do we relate widows in the Bible? Poor people, right? Back then, women didn't enjoy the rights and privileges that they have today. The equality that they have today, that you have today, was not the same back in those days. When a woman was alone, when a woman was a widow, she was a victim of the society, especially a victim of men. This woman had lost her husband, and now she lost her only son, her only hope in life. So she was hopeless. She was carrying her son to the graveyard. And there comes Jesus, and tells her, do not cry. How many times someone have told you, do not cry? How many times have you seen your happiness fade away? I believe everyone here have seen that before. And sometimes Jesus tells some things that is not logical for me. That makes me think, when I was a little kid, I had a friend, his name was Jonathan. Jonathan was a great friend. My father usually was the head elder of the church, so you can imagine how hyperactive I was. You know, usually the devil attacks the elder's family, the pastor's family, and I was one of them. I was always running around in the church. I had a little gang in the church. My brother, 7 other friends. We were always running around. The deacons in the church were chasing us all the time. We only respected one deacon until today. The rest were just painting, decoration, knick-knack. We never respected those deacons. My father was always chasing us with a whip. And he used to say in the pulpit, whoever sees my son doing something wrong and don't tell me, doesn't love me. That little friend I had was totally the opposite of me. I was hyperactive, I was always active, I was always talkative. He was quiet, he was shy, he was correct. I was totally the opposite of correct. Jonathan was also one of the sons of one son of the leaders of the church. We were going to the same school. He was one grade below mine, and we were so close that people thought we were brothers. But I have another brother. I remember that sometimes when I didn't have money, to buy things in school, he used to buy things for me. When he was in trouble because someone was trying to bully him, I would come with my brother and beat that person for him. We were great friends. We were close friends, very close friends. One day, I just took a test, and when I was out of the classroom, I saw the ambulance came to the school, and I was asking someone that was coming through the stairs, what's going on? Why is the ambulance here? And that person told me, didn't you know? Your brother just went in the ambulance. And I looked at my brother, and I said, no, my brother is here. No, not that brother, the other one. What happened? Nobody knew. And I went downstairs, I went to the principal's office. The principal knew what was I gonna say, and he said, no, it's okay, Joel. He's fine. But what happened? Don't worry, it's gonna be fine. Do you think I buy into that? No. A lot of older kids were taking advantage of the situation and sneaking out the school, while the teachers were worried of something else. And I saw them and I asked them, you have to take me the other side. And they look at each other and say, nah, we're not gonna take that responsibility. Well, if you don't take that responsibility, then I'm gonna tell the principal what you're doing. Okay. And they let me go to the other side. Now, when I was in the other side, I asked the guys, where is the hospital? Remember, I was just a little kid, 8 years old. They told me, all you have to do is go straight in that street until you get tired, you're gonna find the hospital. All right. And I started walking. Thank God they say the truth. And I walked, I don't remember for how long, until I found the hospital. Now, back in Dominican Republic, hospitals are not like here. Here, you go to the hospital, and the hospital is very organized, even when it's a public hospital. When you go to the emergency room, people are there, they say hi to you politely, and they let you in. There were a lot of people wanted to get in. And of course, a little kid, they were not gonna let me in unless I was with my parents. And the guard told me, if you're not here with your parents, you better be dying because you're not getting in. Okay, I have to die. But I can't get my parents. My father was, he was working in the city hall. My mother was a teacher. There was no way I could alert my parents I was there. So I waited until the ambulance came back. They opened up both doors and I sneak in with the patients. And I was looking for my friend inside. I was taking the curtains away, looking for my friend until I found my friend. He was laying down in bed. His side was lost. And I was trying to wake him up. Oh, come on, Jonathan, I'm here. You can start. You can stop acting now. I'm here. He didn't respond, and I removed him. He didn't respond, and then I started getting worried. Okay, something's wrong here. What's going on, Jonathan? He didn't respond to me until the doctor came, and the doctor said, "Hey, what are you doing here? How did you come here? Where are your parents?" I was in shock in that moment, and then Jonathan's parents came in, and they told the doctor, "It's okay, he's with the family. He's part of the family. Don't worry." They let me sit down in that little bench, and they started talking. Jonathan had experienced a small heart attack at that age, and you know, at that age is terrible. The doctors were telling Jonathan's parents what they have to do, but he was in a coma at that time, and they didn't know when he was going to respond. All they had to do at that time is just pray. Okay, that was simple for me. I didn't know what a coma was. I just thought, he's just resting, because that's what they told me. He's just resting. That afternoon, I couldn't eat. Jonathan's parents took me home. They explained my parents what happened. And next day, when my father took me and my brother to school, I told my brother, you have to keep the secret for me. I have to go back to the hospital. I need to know what's going on with Jonathan. I feel like he's gonna die and I have to be there. It's okay. He was always my partner in crime. It's okay. I'll keep the secret for you. He took my books, my notebooks, and I went back to the hospital. When I got to the hospital, the guard recognized me right away. And he said, well, if you're looking for someone here that was yesterday here, you're looking for that person in the wrong place. Nobody stays here for 24 hours. You have to go all the way around and ask for your friend, whoever he was. I went all the way around, and I went to the nurse's office, and they looked at me. I asked for my friend, and of course, I was a little kid. They were always paying attention to little kids. She looked at, in the list, he was not there, but she told me, he was here yesterday. He's now in another hospital. He was transferred because he is in a coma. And I said, everybody's is continuing saying, a coma, what is a coma? She was very bold with me. She told me, your friend is dying. Okay. I couldn't contain my tears. And she told me the place, she wrote down the place where my friend was. And what do you think I did? I walked back to the school. And from the school, I went to my father's office. Now remember, my father was working in the city hall. In the Dominican Republic, city halls are not like here. It's definitely not a kids-friendly place. You will see a lot of guards with big guns there. You will see a lot of people handcuffed. Sometimes guards are chasing away some people. You'll see a lot of lawyers, you'll see a lot of salesmen. Everybody's in the city hall. It's a chaos. and my father was working there. So when I entered to the devil's lair, I was so frightened until I got to my father's office. He was attending some customers there. When he saw me entering that place, he opened up his eyes as big as he could. And he just said, you know what? Sit down, I'll deal with you in a moment. Because he thought something wrong. Something could have happened in school. And this kid is here. After half of an hour, my father was done with his customers, and when he came back to me, I was already in tears. I couldn't contain myself. And his anger, of course, went down. He said, okay, what's the story? What's going on? And I told him, it's Jonathan. Yes, I know. It's okay. He's gonna be fine. No, he's not gonna be fine. He's dying. And he knew that. He said, it's okay. You know what, in the afternoon, I'm gonna take you in the afternoon there. But now, I'm gonna take you back to school. No, you can't do that, I said. You can't do that. And for the first time, I'm there arguing with my father. And he understood, if he didn't take me to the hospital at that time, he knew something worse was gonna happen. He knew a worse frustration was gonna happen to him. So he had no other choice. He told his co-workers, I'm gonna take off for the day. I'm gonna take my son to another place now. The trip to that hospital from that place was about half of an hour. But that was the worst trip of my life. That was the longest half of an hour of my life until we got there. When we got there, we asked for him. They told us he is in the ICU, intensive care unit, and he can only take one visit a day, and he already had it. Of course, his mom. I just wanted to be there. I just wanted to support my friend. We went up there. Jonathan's parents were there. We hugged. We talked a little bit, and then half of an hour later, the doctor came from the ICU, and he called Jonathan's parents. And I asked him, it's gonna be okay? It's okay. He said, it's okay. He talked to Jonathan's parents. They were talking something I didn't understand. After 30 seconds, Jonathan's father took off the conversation. He was looking away. He was putting his hand in his head. Went back to the conversation. Jonathan's mother couldn't contain her tears. And the doctor said, now you have to leave. You do what you have to do. And Jonathan's father said, okay, doctor, now you do what you have to do. When the doctor went back to the intensive care unit, I asked Jonathan's father, is he gonna be okay? And he looked at me with that look, trying to tell me so many things. He was trying to disguise what he was going to tell me. But he couldn't. His tears wouldn't let him. He said, no, he's not going to be okay. Your friend just died. Friends, that night, that day, I felt like if my heart was ripped off my body. I felt like something died with me. And I said, this is not fair. It is not fair. And I told him, let's pray. Let's just pray. He said, there's nothing we can do right now. It's just a matter of time. He accepted to pray with me. And I remember the words I said in the prayer. I said, Lord, I know you can do a miracle. I know because you have done it in the past. Please, please, do this miracle for me. And nothing happened. I left that room believing that God was not fair. Sometimes God's statements are not quite logical for us. Sometimes God's plan doesn't seem to fit in my plans. And I'm going to talk to you about some logical examples of God's logical, divine logical. And this is one of them, the widow of Nain. The other one is in 1 Kings chapter 17. Let's go with me. 1 Kings chapter 17, verses 8 to 13. You remember when the prophet Elijah was running away from Jezebel. He had said a prophecy. There's not going to be any raindrop until I say so. And he left the castle. As soon as he left the castle, and the animals started dying, the plants, the trees started dying, the water started to dry, Elijah's head got a price. And of course, he had to run away from the queen. When Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel lifted their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them. So they were very afraid, and the children of Israel cried out to the Lord. Then they said to Moses, because there were no graves in Egypt, have you taken us away to die in the wilderness? Why have you so dealt with us to bring us up to out of Egypt? This is not the word that we told you in Egypt, saying, let us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians. For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than we should die in the wilderness. And Moses said to the people, do not be afraid. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which we will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall see again no more forever. The Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. And the Lord said to Moses, why do you cry to me? Tell the children of Israel to go forward. To go forward where? To the Red Sea? I don't remember them being professional swimmers. They didn't have time to build canoes to go over. They were not ready to fight. They had been slaves for a lot of years. And now God is telling them, do not come to me. Do not cry to me. Just tell them, go forward. Does that sound logic to you? Because it doesn't sound to me. Now, when I was a kid, I remember my father told me one day, when God allowed a tear in your eyes, it's because he wants to see a rainbow in your life. Sometimes God's plan may not be what we want, but they are the best. And at the end, you see better results. I have experienced that in my life. I have seen that in many, many lives in my life. That's a rule that never fails. That day, the Lord gave the children of Israel a victory that until today we remember. That day, the children of Israel went into the Red Sea. And when they went to the Red Sea, Moses touched the waters with his staff, and you remember what happened. We all know the story. A great wind was blowing the whole night, and the water dried. It formed two walls, and they all passed through the Red Sea in dry walk. When Pharaoh's army saw that, they went after the children of Israel. But in the middle, when they were in the middle of the Red Sea, God broke their carriages, and he brought confusion to them, and the waters came down. And that day, the children of Israel got the victory against their worst enemy. You remember that day when Elijah asked that widow of Zarephath to prepare food for him first? Well, that day she believed God's word, and she prepared food for him. Not only prepared food for him, but when she was going to prepare food for her and her son, she found out that her food didn't end it that day. They ate for many days. That's what the Bible says. Until it was time for God to bring water again. That day when Jesus stopped the funeral, going to the graveyard, when he told that lady not to cry, he wanted to perform a miracle. I want you guys to go back with me to Luke, verse 7. Luke chapter 7, verse 13, it says, "When the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her and said to her, 'Do not weep.' Then he came and touched the open coffin, and those who carried him stood still. And he said, 'Young man, I say to you, arise.' So he who was dead sat up and began to speak, and he presented him to his mother." Now my question, did Jesus have any reason to tell that woman not to cry? She may not know his agenda, but in his agenda, her happiness was in first place. I want to tell you tonight that you are part of Jesus' agenda. He wants to see you happy. Your happiness is his priority. No matter what it costs, your happiness is his priority. You are his priority. I remember that afternoon when my father took me to that intensive care unit in the capital city. We were crying for about half of an hour. When the doctor came back to my friend's bed, he was ready to disconnect. He was officially dead for an hour, and he was able to disconnect, to unplug old cables. And you know how that monitor, the heart monitor, has this little line when it's reflecting your heart beeps. Beep, beep, beep. When the people is dead, beep, that line, you've seen that. Well, when the doctor was ready to unplug my friend, he heard very soft beep. And he looked at the nurse. The nurse didn't hear anything. Okay, let's unplug him. When he was about to unplug him, beep. Then he looked at the nurse again, and the nurse said, "Did you hear what I heard?" "Yes, I did." And they both stared at the monitor with the hope that they would say it again, and boom, it happened again. Beep, beep. And my friend's heart started beeping again. And he opened his eyes. And he sat down in that bed after 1 hour being dead. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. He came out of that room, and we were still taking our tears away. And he asked Jonathan's father, "You have to come inside. You have to see this. Who are you guys? You have to see this." We were all going inside, and Jonathan was in that bed. He was sitting down, and he was looking for his mom. They hugged. They cried. Now this time they cried because of happiness. Nobody could believe what we were seeing. 1 week after, Jonathan returned to school. That day, we couldn't have regular classes because everybody was happy. Today, he's a great man. He's a man of God. And because of his testimony, a lot of people have accepted Jesus. I don't know what your situation may be. One thing I tell you, Jesus wants your happiness. In his logic, your happiness is priority. No matter what type of plans he has, no matter if you understand or do not understand his plans, just accept it by faith. He has a plan for you. He's just waiting for us to give ourselves to him. Jesus wants to have our attention tonight and all our lives. Just surrender to him, and he'll do great things with you. May God bless you.
Amen.